All right, there you are. Take it away, Michelle.
All right. Well, what we're here today to discuss, and ladies and gentlemen, you are on here for many, many different reasons, but our master's in psychology has some very great benefits where you're on here seeking information for yourself or someone else in your life. What we're basically going to talk about is how there's some great benefits in having a master's in psychology degree. Number one, you evaluate your own biases and their effects on leading teams or in general, if you're in a management or a teaching environment, or if you're a priest or a deacon. To also understand the person, marriage, and family with the contemporary psychological theories, research, and experience, and also really position yourself as a manager in any walk of life who can effectively de-escalate situations and oversee a team. Each of you come to this with much wisdom, but the reason for additional education is to impact that wisdom. I think we'd all agree. And I'm Michelle, and I am the admissions counselor for the Divine Mercy University Masters in Psychology. So hello. Just a quick historical perspective. We have been around, founded in 1999, and those of you who may have been following us for a while, at one time we were the Institute for the Psychological Sciences. We changed our name in 2015 to Divine Mercy University with the addition of School of Counseling. It's really opened us up to people in a lot of different realms, whether it's human resources or people in hospital realm or nurses. So it's not just people that are Catholic based inside the churches. It's also expanding out to parishes because our world is troubled, but when the world is troubled, we know that it's important that we all get stronger. And that's one of the reasons our psychology masters is really growing in need out there. Always good to know that you're looking at an accredited college. We are accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, commissions on colleges to award masters and doctorates. And these are some of the other accreditations and standards that we have since we're located in Virginia. So this is the meat and potatoes of the master's degree. Obviously, it is taught with a Christian faith-based meta model, so that you're not just learning psychology, you're also learning the impact of the entire human being, which is important as you understand psychology. So once a person decides that they want to go forward and they're accepted into the program, you are going to take a degree that's a little unique. It's 36 semester credit hours of coursework, 30 of which are psychology, 6 are philosophy and theology. And stop and think, for those of you who took your bachelor's, whether a long time ago or recently, you only take one course every 8 weeks. So think how deeply you dig down into the subject matter. And it's very much a degree where you do not have to be on the computer at a specific time. You rather have to write and think about answers to great perspectives and questions and different papers that are shorter, not longer, like in your bachelor's degree. But you really dig down into the subject matter, which we'll look at on a future slide. A big question that often comes up, because a lot of people work and take this degree, and they are my heroes. But a lot of people say, okay, what's my realistic picture? And it's very important to me that you know that realism, because I want you to be successful if you would ever decide to go through with this. You're probably looking at adding about 2 hours to your day each week. Now, whether you do 4 hours on Saturday or whatever, but I'm telling you this so you'd be successful. So if your best time, because you're a farm girl, is from 5 to 7 in the morning, jump on that computer and do your assignments then. Some people often do it at lunchtime. Some people do it in the evening. You know when your energy is the highest, but I want you to know that that will set you up for success. Well, since the degree is 2 years year-round, you have some breaks. You have an entire month off in July. It's not always July. It's a month off in the summer and a month off in like part of December, part of January. But the good thing is you have some light at the end of the tunnel to rest, to have vacation, to be active in your church at busy times. So when we say it takes 2 years and 4 months to graduate, it's because you are really off 2 months of each year. And I think that gives you clarity on that. It's the only degree that we offer that is 100% online. And so that really benefits a lot of individuals who could not take a degree in any other way. And it's very important for me to let you know that this is not a licensure track. This is a full-blown master's in psychology that focuses on educating working professionals from all backgrounds by giving them a solid practical human tool needed in psychology. Not meaning that you can't change professions or open up a nonprofit, but I think it's very important to realize that this is not a counseling degree. We do offer that as well, but this is for really impacting what you want to learn and help people. It's very much a helper healing degree. We can always discuss that further if I work with you individually. So what is my return? If I decided to go forward and do the master's in psychology online, what are some of the things that's really going to help me benefit? So these are some of the top ones: recognizing common psychological problems in human behavior, to relate effectively to distressed individuals, and to be able to develop care and education plans, very important as an educator or in any walk of life, and then analyze and use the relevant research. I happen to be in Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area, and we're losing a whole generation to heroin addiction. So there's a whole lot of research going on to help uplift these folks who are having major issues. Keeping in mind, it's always led by the principles of leadership activities that's informed by the Catholic Christian vision of the human person. And I can go on record of saying, as we are the only degree that is taught in the manner that we teach our masters in psychology. A lot of effects of crises and disasters and other trauma-causing events are going on all over the world. It just makes my heart break with what's happening in Sri Lanka and what's happening in schools. And so there's a lot of people who are very fragile. And this degree helps individuals like yourself impact healing because of knowing what questions to answer and how to help people with individual situations. It also uses that statistical analysis to understand individuals and groups.
All right, and I'm just going to take a moment here just to allow for anyone to ask any questions or make any comments. This is really the meat of our presentation today, and a lot of times people are wondering, okay, I'm going back to school, and why? What's the benefit? And right here are our 7 benefits that we promised to lay out for you today. And I just wanted to see, Michelle, I'm sure you're familiar with our trauma and crisis activities that Divine Mercy University does. We even travel. We have different missions that we do with our professor, Dr. Keys, who's connected to our trauma center. Is there a way that, Michelle, if you could speak just to some of these points just a little further?
Well, a lot of times that's the joy of being a student at Divine Mercy University. There might be some other side, things that you can learn. And so everybody's life and everybody's situation is different. And I will tell you that a lot of the people who come into our program have had some experiential things in their life, whether it was abuse or trauma or scenarios where they want to help people based on the wisdom that they have. And so I think it's important to realize that whatever your personal objective is, and like I say, I dig down a little bit deeper. One of the gals who's on the phone today from the Philippines, we've already talked. I know exactly what she's done for a living. I know exactly what her focus is so that we can help determine, is this a good pathway for her? And I think that's very important when you're looking. I mean, some people wait 25 years to get a master's. Some people jump right out of college and, bachelor's and get one. But I think it is important to realize that we want to help you help the world. And as our Father Charles, who's the president of Divine Mercy, says, one person graduating from this program is going to impact the lives of hundreds.
Oh, yes.
Day in and day out, don't we, Ebony?
Oh, yeah. And I know it's really not my presentation, but it's just some things. If I'm Ebony and I send out the emails and the texts, and I'm really excited about the content that we do provide, and just want to speak to 3 of these points, which is number 1, recognizing common psychological problems, that being, you seeing someone who, can't keep eye contact or something, and they're exhibiting, negative behaviors, and you're wondering if they have anxiety or if they're depressed, or, what kind of resources can I provide them? With this degree, you would already know how to recognize someone who may have a mental illness and be able to provide them with the best guidance possible at that time to make sure that there is no threat to their own lives. Suicide is something that is very prevalent, unfortunately, in the news these days. Another one with number 4, critical analysis, that could be applied to even marketing, um, understanding the best ways to teach in a classroom by learning childhood behaviors. So that would be, or even learning behaviors of couples or, through like a marriage kind of counsel. And then I'll just speak to the number 5 being the Catholic Christian vision. We have an extensive research that professors have been working on, which is called the Catholic Christian meta model of the person. It's actually something that will be published soon, and it has aligned all of our, I would say, behaviors that are not recognized in other forms of psychology education, which is aligned with the Bible and everything with prayer, so that you can make sure that you provide holistic care to anyone you come into contact with. So I'll just pause now. I do see we got a question that just came in. Let's see. All right, says, is this school accredited and does it offer forensic psychology? Michelle, can you tackle that one?
We are totally accredited by, it is the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, which is one of the very fine accreditations in the United States, and you always want to make sure you look at accreditation. As far as narrowing it down to a topic in forensic psychology, no. But one of the things that I will tell you is you want to make sure that you never just put yourself in a box. There are courses that you can take in forensic psychology after you do a master's in psychology. And one thing that Ebony brought up, and she is wonderful. She's my right hand because I'm, out here in Northern Kentucky and she's in Washington, D.C. I think we have seen with all the school shootings and the trauma that everybody's sights and senses are very heightened to be able to recognize these things and stop so many of them before they happen, because this wasn't happening. And 20 years ago was the first time. But back to your forensics, because when these things happen, we have to look at why they happened. But we don't cover that specifically. I have actual course descriptions that I can send to anybody who wants them, and if we go through an interview. But we do find that there are full-blown degrees like that. Some people want to go into the FBI, if you will. But sometimes just having a master's in psychology will get you in the FBI. I have a very good friend who grew up in the Salvation Army and got his master's in music. And he actually got all that forensic training when he went into the FBI. So I don't know what your long-term objective is, but does that answer your question as far as being transparent about not having that specific course?
I believe that answers it. Yeah, you could always get further certifications. Yes. And before we proceed to the next slide, Michelle, I did want to see if you would be willing to share some, I guess, emails or even responses, phone calls that you've gotten from previous students about how the program has even helped them better themselves as a person. I know that we do have, some of those testimonies.
Well, and we do. And one of the things that I love stories, I'm an old American Indian and Irish and French in my background, and I love stories. And so I often seek out stories from my students. So I have a student who is actually pretty far along in the program, and he lives in Alaska. He's originally from Louisiana. He has an MBA, and he also has a criminal justice bachelor's. And one time I was just saying, hello, I hope your break is going well. He sent me an unsolicited email that said, I just want to let you know that as an admissions counselor, you need to maybe tell some of the folks who are coming into the program how important it is that the wisdom that they have, they share it with all the other students that are in the coursework. And he said, it's amazing to me how close and how much we continue to care about each other. In our degree, we don't write a thesis, but we write a capstone. So I wrote him back and I said, I was just curious, Steve, what is your capstone going to be about? Well, up in Alaska, there's a tremendous alcohol problem with the Aborigine population of the people who were born there. And so what he's doing is he's going to work with young people who grew up in a toxic environment to make sure that they do not turn to a life of crime and drugs. So that's actually my favorite story. I have many more, but you're right, Ebony. It's always good to hear. And I want to hear everybody's stories. You know, I hear priests who, you know, have worked with people in the street and they've changed their lives just because of some of the things that we teach to help a person through a different perspective. But you bring up a good point, Ebony.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I know that was kind of impromptu, but thank you. It's always something that I love hearing when you share those with me as well.
So there are some of you on this call, I would bet, who have never taken an online degree. And sometimes that can be a little bit scary. And other times it is an adventure, because to have the freedom, and I got tickled at one of my, actually she's my program chair, she was talking to one of the instructors, say sometimes you have to be a little bit patient with our students in Nigeria because they don't have a Starbucks and internet at every, you know, corner like we do. And so as long as, though, you have an internet and you have a computer to work from, and you have those flexible times to do it one-on-one with your instructors, whether it's answering questions or whether it's writing a small paper, it is very important that you know that you have a help desk available and you have a 12 to 15 hour orientation before you actually start class. So we want to build confidence and help our people be successful, whether they've done online before or not. And now employers, much more than 15 years ago, are really seeing the value of the discipline for somebody who has the courage to take an online degree.
All right, and we just got a question that came in asking the requirements in each course. For example, are there online tests, term papers, case studies for every 8-week period?
Kind of all of the above. So I'll give you some examples. One, you may have a very short question for the instructor that he wants all you 19 or 20 people that are in the cohort to give him back and paint a picture of a story. And I'll give a quick example. It's actually one of my favorites. I have a student in my program who is blind. And that's almost hard to believe because he has found a technology called JAWS. And JAWS actually reads audibly back to him what's on the computer when it's up on his screen. And he's very excited to be able to get his master's as a person who's not sighted. And he called me one day and he goes, guess what you've got to hear what the discussion question is today. And I said, what is it, John? He goes, well, doctor wants us to describe and paint the picture and make people feel what is it going to be like at the second coming of Christ. I said, boy, that is a really heady question. I said, so what did you do? He says, well, he says, I wrote about when I was a child and I used to love my Jack-in-the-Box. Some of you on the call may not old enough to know what a Jack-in-the-Box is, but as you know, it turned the handle, and then it would pop out. And he says, do you remember? And I said, I do. And he said, that is so exciting to me because I think that's exactly the way I'm going to paint the picture of when Christ comes again. Well, that's a very short discussion question, but he said, I can't wait to get back online and see what everybody else has to say. But then you may have each 8 weeks, 2 or 3 short papers that you write, sometimes a little more than that. You will also have some research. We have a beautiful online library that helps you really accomplish your goals. Yes, you will have scheduled tests and quizzes, and you're given a syllabus up front each 8 weeks so that you can plan and organize your time. So in that respect, it's very much like an on-ground classroom. I think I covered everything. So let's talk about that. How in the world can you be on virtual online for 2 years and never meet anybody and determine that it's just like being in an on-ground classroom? Well, part of it is because of the commitment. Most of our instructors have been with us almost from the very beginning. And many of them have lives and children and they're working in the industry. And so they want to give you fast turnaround. They want to make sure that you feel comfortable with how you're progressing. And sometimes they'll have a Zoom meeting with you, so you will meet them. But other times it's just emails and writing back and forth. One of the questions I ask in my interview, each of you out there has a different learning mode. Some of us are auditory. Some of us are visual. So because of that, we know that we have to teach in many different, I mean, to me, that's the hardest thing being a teacher. We said we had a homeroom teacher. I can't imagine having 30 people in the class and, finally figuring out how do they learn best. Well, adults will tell you. So through videos and books and classroom and tutorial and audiobooks and discussion, you're going to be able to touch all those learning points. Me, I'm visual and I like to write. I'm also a reader. I'm kind of a three-way, but everybody's different. And we use, for those of you who have been online in a classroom before, we use Blackboard. Excuse me, we use Canvas. Many of you might have come from Blackboard, but Canvas is very easy to use. You get a Divine Mercy University email and you kind of sequester your life on Canvas so that that's where you post and put everything so that you can keep track of it. And like I say, once you're accepted into the program, you get about a 10 to 14 hour self-directed type of orientation so that you feel comfortable when you hit the ground running on the 22nd of May that you're ready to go. And again, you have 24/7 open access, study anytime, anywhere, and also get in contact with our help desk through the week. Who's going to benefit? And again, we think that we are seeing a tremendous broad band of folks coming into the program. They may be already career vocational advisors. They may be wanting to get their junior college teaching certificate and teach psychology. They may be an academic student advisor. They may be in social services, EMT, HR people that want to retain good talent, emergency services and rehab managers. So it really goes across a lot of lines as far as people who are benefiting. And a lot of areas it impacts. Let's say you're in management. Let's say you're in marketing. Let's say you're in HR or analysis, and that you have impact on staff evaluations and employee training, that you are a project research and management person, that your program effectiveness is very important to you. Psychology is really at the root of all that. I had a conversation just this morning with a person who's in nursing home administration, talking about, if your grandma falls and she's never going to be able to go back to her home, whether you're in a hospital having to help a family determine that, or you're 45 years old and your mate has a stroke and you never thought any of these kind of things were going to happen. The people who manage that and help people, it's just an example because, the whole medical area and baby boomers and all that is very important. It's an area sometimes people don't think about, but you have to have tremendous psychologically and recognition of people's human feelings, especially if you're dealing with big families who all have conflicting moments. So I see that I'm getting a lot more healthcare workers in the program as well. And again, I will tell you in Fort Worth that a lot of our folks, and that's what's exciting because oftentimes you are online with parochial vicars, you may be online with a sister who's a nun in Germany, people who are working in seminaries to help people discern if in fact going into the priesthood is important and right for them. Deliverance ministers, a lot of people inside the churches, and we actually make some wonderful agreements with a lot of our parishes if they want to present our program to some of their parish members and give some additional scholarships. The gentleman on the right, Father Sikorsky, again, is the president of Divine Mercy University, and that's actually from an actual graduation a few years ago. So yes, there are indeed individuals that are going to give you information probably that you might not get to learn up close and personal just if they were the pastor in your church. And this is just really to go over the fact that there are so many vocations out there. And some people, as I say, are changing careers when they come in, but a lot of people are using the degree to impact what they already do. And so we do have people who are doing everything from opening up nonprofits. We had a graduate last year, 71 years old. Ebony likes my stories. But he opened up a nonprofit with his wife, very young, 71. And they help the community that are underserved, but the community that's underserved have to have a little skin in the game so that they grow individually to help the community. So there's just many different ways you can take the degree. We are again blessed with wonderful instructors who've been with us for a long time. Anna Pecoraro actually was the individual who pretty much wrote a lot of the curriculum and started the program. And her statement, I think, is probably the benchmark. Our program is unique. We teach scientific psychology integrated with the Catholic Christian vision of the human person. We've had students from all walks of life and across the world join our program, including stay-at-home mothers, business executives, nonprofit leaders, missionaries, parish lay leaders, entrepreneurs, first responders, and then, of course, priests, deacons, religious, and retirees. So it encompasses a band of wisdom where, again, I feel very strongly about that. You, as people coming into this degree, have lifetime wisdom, and you're sharing that with other people, and them sharing it with you creates just a wonderful circle of life. And this is just a couple of videos that we can see to kind of just give you a quick, is this one of the videos?
Yes, it is.
And it'll just kind of give you a snippet of one of the courses. And this was the Relation and Intervention Skills Theory and Application, which is number 555. So it just gives you an on-hand quick visual of what one of the courses might share with you.
All righty.
We're not getting volume out here, Ebony. Having a little technical difficulty, Ebony?
I'm sorry, you said you can't hear it?
No, we're not hearing the YouTube. So we may be having a little technical difficulty. We had that happen one other time.
Okay, you can't hear it. Let me try.
We can always refer them to that YouTube page, but that has happened before.
Let me see if I make it bigger and that'll make a difference.
Okay.
These concerns that you might have and helping to sort of make changes in the person's life. It's something that on some level everybody ought to have a course in. We spend a lot of time in school learning about reading, writing, math, but really no courses that I'm aware of for most of us in learning how to really relate and understand each other, how to resolve conflict, how to really support and help people change. And so throughout the whole course, sort of the foundation is learning these three core skills. How to really listen. How to listen and hear in such a way that the other person feels understood, having this deep level of empathy. The second is the ability to really express in a skillful way your needs, teaching other people how to skillfully express their needs, and doing it in a way that the other person can actually hear it. On some level, we're really talking about how to speak the truth in love. And then the third part is, based on that relationship, how do you support and help people make changes for themselves, for their family, for a group, or where they work. And in a very key way, these skills are the basis for everything else that you'll do in learning about the helping professions.
I will assure all of you on the call that typically our audio is much better than that was just from an so if we find that the other ones are not as good audio, we'll skip those and we can give you those in YouTube. But hopefully you could hear it enough. We just wanted to give a snippet.
All right, and I'll be sure to send the links for the courses so everyone can view them as well.
Thank you.
All right, this is the second course we wanted to highlight.
Let's see if we get better audio on this one. And it is Human Growth and Development Across the Lifespan. It's actually one of the favorite courses of individuals, even when I'm interviewing people, because if you think about the fact that we go from birth to being in the geriatric, it's so interesting to cover the special focus on flourishing across the lifespan, because as we know, we're dealing people from, all the, I don't like to put people in categories, but millennials and the baby boomers and all of that. And it takes special skills to work with people in human growth and development across the lifespan. Let's see if we can get a little better audio on this one.
Welcome to your fourth course, Human Growth and Development Across the Lifespan. We're going to be looking at research, all kinds of studies that have been done, both psychological, neurological, sociological, that have clear bearing on how it is that human beings develop and how they progress throughout their entire lifespan, not just from childhood, not just from the adolescent years, but all the way through the senior years. So, as I said, some science is really going to come in here. And the purpose is to let you know what psychology has to say about the important stages in human growth and in human development. We will be looking, of course, at a lot of different topics, but one will be moral development. And it's interesting that the research seems to show that moral development is in a sense rooted in our very nature, that it shows up in infants, if you will, before they've even learned language. But we'll look at topics like biological development, brain development, socialization. We'll look at topics like separation and individuation. We'll look at how infants learn to separate from their mother and individuate as distinctive human beings. We will look at how mother-child interactions influence the development of the child, both interpersonally and emotionally. We will look at teenage problems. I don't know if we'll look at the teenage brain, as they sometimes say, but we'll look at adolescent issues and identity. We'll look at problems that arise in midlife, and we'll be looking at the end of life as well, how people adapt and continue to develop, if you will, even though they're seniors. This course on human development, in some ways, is similar to courses that are taught anyplace. But we have here at IPS some very special emphases that make it unique. Most courses elsewhere will just tell you the sort of isolated facts, but actually we're all interested in what's the meaning of life or the purpose of life. And so we're going to be talking here a lot about putting the science in the context of human growth and flourishing. That is, what is development about? What are we developing toward or for? And so we'll talk about that quite explicitly. That is how the things that we look at in developmental psychology affect our later growth, our later flourishing, and how they affect us throughout our life in positive ways. And so we will be looking at, if you will, all the time, sometimes in the background, but it'll always be there. What are we growing and developing for?
Dr. Vitz is one of our most revered instructors and really very well known in our organization. As you can tell, he still refers to us as IPS because we are IPS-Divine Mercy University, but he's been with us a long time and is very revered in our organization and brilliant.
All right, and I see we just got a question that came through. Just to clarify, to be successful with the program, you can expect about 2 hours a day of coursework. That's correct, right, Michelle?
Yes, and I will tell you, it's a little different for everybody. For instance, if you don't have to have a bachelor's in psychology to come into our program, but some people do. So say they've taken something similar, they may move a little, closer, further along, and faster. And then there may be times where it's more challenging and it takes a little bit more. But as we have looked across the lifespan of this degree, if individuals just put it on their calendar, it's kind of like an exercise program or a special project that you're doing. But truly, if you can just consistently get at that 2 hour a day, whether it's, again, 4 hours on Saturday because you have an event, another time, or your work is demanding or whatever, that's about what it takes to be successful. Some people it takes a little less, some takes a little bit more, but that's an average. And again, I always say sometimes you have a little bit of a couple days break between the 8 weeks, and then you do have the month off in the summer and the month off in the winter. So I'm not going to tell you it's a walk in the park. I'm not going to tell you it's the easiest thing that you've ever done, but I can tell you that what you put into it will make you flourish and benefit far more than that time commitment, and kind of just opens you up and flowers you. So it's worth the 2 hours, but it's definitely a consideration. We all look at our own lives and go, wow, can I find that? Well, sometimes you have to give up something to get something. So I hope that answers it for you.
Thank you, Michelle. It definitely does. And we just got a comment from someone saying that the video we just showed resonates with and supports their personal passion and purpose in life. And now wanting to consider finances and all the responsibilities of family. And we'll be sure to get into that shortly. Did you want to show this last video, or would you like to proceed?
I don't think so. I think we're running a little late on time. And obviously they're going to get a recording on this anyway. And that way we can have more time for Q&A and going a little deeper into, if you agree, and going deeper into the scholarships and everything, because I want to be respectful of people's time. But
all right, most definitely. All right, let's see. Here's more information about the program.
So the next question for people who have heightened interest in our Master's in Psychology is, how do I get in? Well, you do have to have a bachelor's degree. So those of you who are on the line that have a bachelor's degree, that's the first step. Our GPA sometimes looks a little low for acceptance into a master's, but there's a reason for that, because we have so many international students, and sometimes they have to have their transcripts evaluated, they have to have their GPA evaluated, and sometimes their percentages. So we want to make sure that we are very open and accept as many people as can get in. Most people who come in probably have more like a 3.0, if you will. Our admissions documents are very simplistic. They're all done online. We also have 2 forms that we send out to 2 people who are your folks in your life that know you well, that would fill out a recommendation form for you. You also have an opportunity to write a letter of intent after you fill out your application. But once you've filled out the basic application, immediately that prompts financial aid to contact you to get you going on what kind of opportunities you would have in financial aid. So let me be specific about a couple things. One, because you're on this webinar, you are allowed a $1,500 scholarship in addition to a $55 waiver of the application fee. And we're doing that because a lot of us are going to be at graduation in the middle of the month, and we want to get everybody in that can still get in. But you also are going to get 2 additional scholarships above and beyond that, for which you will write an essay. It is not all covered. No tuition is all covered by, a full scholarship. But those of you who either have leftover guaranteed student loan money or can arrange for an out-of-pocket payment spread over time, our financial aid people are wonderful at working with you to make it as comfortable as possible for the investment to be beneficial. Some of you may be working in a school or a company where they offer a little bit of tuition reimbursement. Some of you may be veterans. We are veteran approved. So all this information, plus you get your official transcripts to us, just your bachelor's, and then all this goes into a file, and we do a very good job. As long as you get all your paperwork in, you're going to find out very quickly whether you're accepted. And then once you're accepted, you will be assigned, as I said earlier, on a Divine Mercy University email, And then you will start on a pathway of doing your orientation and then sign in on class on the 22nd of May and go forward. If you are international, and I know I have one international student, but I know she's already taken her courses in English, so she wouldn't have to worry about having that, looked at as far as is it equivalent. But everything's a little bit different. If somebody's first language is not English, sometimes based on whatever coursework they have or have not had, they might have to take a TOEFL test because number one, we're not going to put people in a program that are over their head. Okay, so that's the first part of that. So the cost, the investment, how does this work? Well, if you have done any comparisons of master's degrees in your research, you'll most definitively find that finding a master's degree for well under $15,000 per academic year is pretty amazing. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, we are a nonprofit. Secondly, we want the right people in our program. But right now, because you have the opportunity for the extra $1,500 scholarship, plus the other 2 scholarships, keeping in mind that the next academic year, you will also be able to get additional 2 scholarships each academic year. You just write in for the essays. And the only other cost outlay, especially for the master's in psychology, there's not a lot of outlay. Everything's very inclusive, your books, your ebooks, your library, but there is a $50 tech fee per course times 12. Your application fee would be waived if you make a decision to apply after the webinar. And so that's pretty cut and dry. But again, our folks in financial aid are experts. They go through every part of the opportunity and make sure they can find ways for it to be affordable. But I am always adamant to say, yes, there's going to be some out of pocket. And if you do have, like I say, any guaranteed student loan money or other sources, just talk to financial aid about that. Or sometimes there's local scholarships that you can write for. But it can be very affordable for earning a master's degree in psychology. So, and that's important to us to determine how we make that grad school affordable. Again, the federal student loan program, sometimes employer tuition reimbursement, veterans funding, alternative financing, private funds, agencies, cash plans, sometimes benefactors. And again, we are making agreements with churches. If you have a very strong relationship with your parish and your priest, or you work in a parish, I can talk to you offline about some of those additional scholarships as well. So you'd find that when you clicked on divinemercy.edu, financial aid scholarships, when you click on that, it gives you a whole series of all the different scholarships that are available. Some of them are based on agreements we have if you graduated from a certain college. Some of them are available because you have done something in the community. Excuse me. Some may be for a woman or a man who's consecrated or a priest or whatever. So there's different ways for you to be available or you be eligible for different scholarships. You're allowed to write in for 4 and you will be granted 2. And sometimes based on your background, you kind of have to pick and choose which one of those scholarships would I most likely be qualified for. And if there's any questions on that, please feel free to type those up, or we'll be talking, obviously, if we set up a plan for going forward. Hope that is clear to everyone.
All right, and you did mention our interest-free payment plan.
Yes, the cash plan set up internally, interest-free, that they can spread out over a period of time. They work that out with the business office and basically sign an agreement. We're very electronic. You know, once your scholarships are reviewed, then financial aid actually sends you what they call an electronic agreement. And once you sign off on that, you are what we call confirmed because all your acceptance has gone through. And so that way you know, like for instance, this academic year, filling out a FAFSA, for those of you who have done that, and probably most of you have, you'd fill it out for 18-19. And then in just a few months, you'll fill out your 19-20. So each turn, you'll be looking at opportunities for, you know, where you're at in the whole financial aid process because you're repackaged based on the academic year. So, you know, I guess in the final consideration, each time I interview somebody, there's 4 things that are very important to me. And as I said up front, most of it is fit. It's like, am I excited about this? Is this going to incorporate into the life and the path that I have? Well, you want to look at, is the completion of this program going to help me in the attainment of my goals? And that's an examination that we do a little deeper when I have a conversation with you. The question always comes up, just like whoever asked that question: is this program scheduling and requirements for successful completion workable with your schedule? And I will tell you, I don't look for compliments, but I am told time after time that a student will tell me, you gave me realistic expectations of what it was going to take to be successful in this degree. And we can't be horrendously crazy flexible, but there are priests who have to go away for 3 weeks and live in a cave, and they don't have any access to an internet. And so if our instructors know that ahead of time, they will help an individual get ahead of the curve, if you will. So I guess what I'm trying to say is communication is crucial. Life happens, things happen. I've had many women have babies in this program, and fortunately a lot of them, it falls over their break and they can have a baby and come right back. But we are able to work with people. But the best thing to do, go all the way through, but we understand that life happens. The other part is, once you've applied and you've gone through the process and you're going along, you want to make sure that when you have your meeting with financial aid, be open with them, be communicative, fill out those scholarships, be on time, especially with class starting in a month. And they will do everything in their power to help you determine if the program seems affordable. And that's important. You have that extra payment, or, it's coming out. And, it's like I've always said about education. I've been in nursing education. I've been in technical education. You buy a car, and the minute you buy that car, you take it off the lot and it diminishes. But the one thing, as far as value, that never ever is devalued is your ability to know that the education that you get is going to benefit you for a lifetime. Nobody can ever take that away from you. And then the final one is something that I take great pride in. Throughout my years in admissions with a couple of great colleges, and now my twilight time, because I'm getting up there in age, but I plan to work for a long time, is, can you commit to the successful completion of the program? Why start if you can't finish? I mean, to accomplish a master's degree is still one of the greatest pinnacles. As I used to tell my nurses when I was in nursing admissions, when it's tough, remember why you started if you're feeling like giving up. Because in nursing, you miss one clinical and you're out. So I really had to talk about commitment. But I say the same things. There are times when things are going to get tough, and you have an advisor, you have an instructor, you have me, you have a student success, you have a help desk. Be that person that you're going to be to help other healers out there, and reach out until you learn all the tricks to help make you successful. So, once you've decided to go forward with a vengeance. And we are blessed to have a good retention. So again, that's just, pretty much how the whole process works. You complete a 2-part application process, boom, financial aid contacts you immediately. I follow you up with your documents. Each time one of the documents comes in and populates your admissions file, I let you know. I'm probably an over communicator, but I know I'd like to treat people the way I like to treat. I want to know if I'm going to get accepted. I want to know if my stuff is in place. I want to start my orientation. So I try very hard to make sure that at every point of the process that you're being communicated with, and you're communicating with me. It's a two-way street. You got to get all that information back to me. But once I give you the checklist, it's pretty simplistic. It just, takes time. Again, you are blessed to be on this webinar today, and you will get a $1,500 extra scholarship in addition to the $55 application fee being waived. And just to tell you our commitment to the success of people who go through Divine Mercy University, through benefactors and through you all writing the essays and making you eligible. Last year, we gave over $1 million of scholarships and grants to help students lower their tuition bill. And so again, those are the things that financial aid, they may be a little bit more black and white about how they do things, and this is the rule and this is the way it's got to go. But if your commitment to them is to write those scholarships, get your information in on time, they'll jump through buildings to find as much as they can for you to be able to be affordable to go to college. Can't do much more than that. But again, you have to do the other part of that and make sure that you're getting everything turned in for them, since class does start in a month. But I will tell you, there's still plenty of time to do it well.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I don't think anybody could have done this presentation any better, honestly. I will address one question that just came in, and it's in the event that everything doesn't come together financially before classes start, could you share the next course opening or start period?
First of all, there should be no reason that it wouldn't come through. Everybody hopefully filed their taxes and, the previous year that we do it on. If you apply, I usually have people within about a week and a half that are fully accepted, fully funded, fully done. You can wait until the fall start, but I will tell you right now, that's kind of crazy, because you're probably not going to be looking as, sometimes we have like a 3% tuition increase like all colleges do. So you want to chase your dream.
Oh, that's true.
And you may or may not have an early application, at least this one's in the bag. But, we'll work with each student on their individual basis. But most people, once they look through it and see, oh my gosh, I can do this in this time frame, they go ahead and get started. But, we understand that everybody's situation is a little different. And I guess the other big thing is as you can see under my picture, and you're going to be able to get this, and most of you, have the emails and all of that, and I can certainly follow up, but I would love for you to either call me direct or send me an email. And what we would do is we would set up about 20 minutes on the phone to cover a couple of more points and find out about you. I've told you about us. I want to know a little bit about your journey and what your objectives are. And if you say, you know what, I want to go for this, I would send you what we call the next steps email, so that you could go ahead and start working on your application and seeing if you're able to get accepted. And so that would be, our gift to you is the $1,500 scholarship and the waived application. Your gift to me and yourself is to just contact me if there's interest. And even if it is down the road, I want to make sure that all your questions are answered and that we can help you go forward.
All right, and a new question that came in is, could we chat as an international call?
Oh yeah, I have I have international calling capabilities. So if you give me your international calling code and your phone number and the best time to call, like I say, I'm talking to the Philippines tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and it's 9 p.m. her time. So I am always willing to have a face-to-face conversation on the phone.
And feel free, you can send that phone number and best time via this chat. You can just send it to us privately if you rather do that than send in an email or I'm trying to reach Michelle. One other question that just came in is regarding transcripts of record. May I submit only the scanned copy, or will I need to send the original document via international courier service?
That's an excellent question. And if this is an international student asking, I'm going to answer that question in two ways. One, because for the fact that we are only a month away from the class, a lot of times what I will do is have people scan me an unofficial copy of their transcripts. However, a lot of times, surprisingly enough, whether it's an international college or a United States college, they are now, if you talk to the registrar, sending, which didn't happen several years ago, official transcripts via email. And I put that on my next steps along with determining from an international standpoint. So there's two things internationally. If you have never had your transcript evaluated that is commensurate to an American degree, we'll talk about that. If it is in a foreign language, we will also talk about that, because there's a couple steps that would have to be taken. Again, you can still get in. I just have to paint the picture for you on what that process is. So as Ebony said, if there's anybody on the chat that wants to just put their phone number and their name in there and say, hey, Michelle, give me a call at the end of this or call me direct, I'll be happy to answer all those questions offline. Where there's a will, there's a way.
All right. And I'm just going to wait just a few more moments just in case anyone has any last minute questions.
We've had so many questions, maybe in retrospect, we should have watched that other video. But again, you all are going to anyway. But I think it's always more important, just like in psychology, that we're answering people's questions and having dialogue. I don't ever want conversation to be a lost art.
Oh, no. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, we just got to thank you that they'll be sending a follow-up email. Look forward to seeing that, I'm sure, Emily.
And I thank you for your gift of time. Time is precious, and the time that you give to each other and the world and to us and we give to you, very important, and it is a gift. And I hope that you've got all your questions answered, and if you're inspired to go forward, we would love to work with you. And the other thing that I often say, if it isn't for you, there may be somebody in your life that you know that would benefit. So we always appreciate the gift of a referral.
All right, and I do see one last question that came. I'm not sure if you answered this one. It says, I'm a South African, but my first language is English. Do I have to take the test?
No.
Okay.
Unequivocally no. If your first language is English, and that happens a lot of time in Canada and Nigeria and South Africa, you do not have to take the TOEFL test.
Robert University, is there? No.
All right, and just as final reminders, you will be eligible for our $1,500 scholarship just for attending, in addition to our $55 application fee waiver. And you'll be getting a recording of this webinar with the 3 sample courses via email. So if you don't get that by the end of the week, please do reach out to us.
Knowing Ebony, she'll have it out by the end of the day, because the sooner the better if you decide to go forward and get everything done.
All right, no pressure, Michelle. All right, I will certainly be working on it. All right, thank you everyone for coming to our presentation. Much thanks. Again, have a blessed one, and we hope to follow up with you shortly.
Thank you again, everyone.